All right, look at this kid. Look at him on his little perch where he's not meant to be because he feels good today. Hey, Hopi, you're not meant to be up there, are you? But I can't stop him, so let's turn the camera around. Oh my god, okay. So, yeah, what happened with Hope? Hope, yeah, yesterday I had to take him to the vet because as I was leaving the house, we were going for a WALK. I'm not going to say it while he's in the room. We were going for a WALK, and just as we got out the gate, there's this huge dog walking by, and he starts woofing at it. Usually he's scared of those dogs, but because he was in super excitement mode, he just, when he's too excited, he forgets that he's anxious, and so he started woofing like an idiot. And he keeps looking at me when I say the words like woofing because I think he understands more than I give him credit for. Um, and yeah, so he's woofing at this dog, but then all of a sudden he goes from woofing to this loud sort of yelping pain noise. And yeah, he just kept making that noise. And he seemed like he wanted to keep going, but I think that's just because he was too excited to process that he was in pain. So I brought him back in the house, and he's still making this noise. And then I get him back in the house and take off his harness, and he's still crying, and get him all the way back into the house to see Mum, and he's still crying. And yeah, he sort of only settled down as I went off to call the vet, and he was sitting on Mum's lap, sort of trembling. Yeah, so that was a little bit of a panic kind of moment because I've never heard him cry so much, so loud for so long, despite all attempts to calm him down. Sometimes he can be a bit of a drama queen, so sometimes when he has some kind of injury, usually all you need to do is distract him with some treats, but this time, no, he was actually in pain. And it's not anything the big dog did, it's just like, the big dog just walked past. That's all that happened. He was woofing at this dog, and then all of a sudden in so much pain and carrying on about that. So yeah, it was kind of those weird things where he just transitioned from being fine to being not fine. So yeah, I rang the vet, and they were able to get him seen pretty much right away. Dave drove us over because I wasn't going to try and walk him there. Yeah, and so what happened? Okay, in the lead up to this, there's a few other things went on. So on Sunday, he was on Dave's lap getting a nice upside down tummy rub, and there were some BIRDS outside, and I can see some people just joined us. I'm spelling out words because he is right there watching me and listening to everything I'm saying because he is BORED, and I don't want him to get too excited. He shouldn't even be up there right now. He's not supposed to be jumping on things, but he's too much like a cat to not do that. And I'm tired of trying to chase him and get him off that. So it's better if he just stays in the one spot rather than going up and down. So yeah, that's why I'm spelling things out. So he was, getting a nice pat, and then BIRDS outside. And my mistake, I informed him of those things outside, and he quickly flipped over and ran out the dog door and ran up to chase the damn BIRDS. A bit like if you remember, I made a video about his eye problems. It's like, he just goes nuts sometimes, and I think I've got to stop encouraging him to chase any of that. Though they hadn't been on the lawn for ages, I think just because the grass has grown, but now that now that we've mowed the lawn, and I think the birds can see, oh my god, I said it. I said it in passing, so he's just got his ears up. He hasn't quite processed that. So hard not to say certain words when you... Anyway, so I think they can see like all the insects now because the grass is so much shorter, so they've all come back. And yeah, he went a little bit nuts trying to chase them because I guess it's been a while. Yeah, And also on the weekend, with me being low energy, the weekends usually when I take him out. During the week, mum and dad go for early morning WALKs. But on the weekend, usually I try and do more, and so I think he was a bit BORED. I see you looking at me. I think he might know how to spell, but I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, where was I going with that? So yeah, he was a little bit restless, and because if you remember last video talking about my hormone problem, I was pretty low energy, so I didn't leave the house. I was also pretty grumpy. Yeah, so I think he was like extra excitable and keen to go chase things outside. So that's what he did. He overdid it, and when he came back in, he was walking funny, and if I say WALKING, does that, no, he's starting to fall asleep. I think he realizes I'm not really talking to him, so he's like, I'm getting bored of you, mum, I'm just gonna like go to sleep here on this ledge. Okay. Yeah, so he was sort of hunched over and quite unhappy, didn't want to be picked up or any of that kind of stuff. So sometimes he gets like that and he has some kind of injury and he just needs to chill, and then the next day he'll be fine. Or sometimes even like just after you give him something to eat, he will just be fine. So didn't think much of it at the time. Then on Monday he was fine. Then on Tuesday he was fine until I picked him up in like a sort of, I think like I felt like I'd picked him up around the stomach a little bit too much instead of the chest, more like down there, and that seemed to upset him. And then after that, the rest of the day he was a little bit subdued. So I thought what the problem was maybe his hernia. We had his hernia fixed 4 or 5 years ago, and that really improved his quality of life because he wasn't like constantly getting pain from things going in and out of it, you know, like fat moving around. But he did have like this huge sewn up scar kind of thing that took a while to heal and flatten down, and so I was always like, I wonder if that was something, but no. So yeah, that's what happened on Monday, and then Tuesday, no, that would have happened, hang on, I'm so my fucking timeline. So Sundays when he did the twisty thing, I didn't sleep well last night. Tuesday's when I picked him up funny, because yesterday is Wednesday. Yesterday is when the dog incident happened and he was woofing too much and suddenly turned to pain and I had to take him to the vet. Okay, so, hey, just got home, Rainbow Death Ray CD arrived today. Awesome! I'm glad to know that made it so fast. I didn't think it would get there so quickly, so that's awesome. Yeah, I'm just talking about Hope because I had to take him to the vet again. Here is him, like an idiot on his perch where he shouldn't be because he's not supposed to jump. So I've just sounding like a hernia or pulled muscle to me. Yeah, so the vet checked him over, and of course he hates going to the vet. He shakes and all this kind of stuff. He's just trembly, and I think he sort of stopped whimpering, maybe because some of it had worn off at the time, but I think it was more just because he was full of anxiety rather than feeling like he could show the pain. But anyway, so the vet was very careful touching him and worked out that it wasn't actually anything to do with his stomach. Actually, it was his back, and he had a lot of stiffness in his back, and he was arching it, and his back legs are a little bit stiff, I guess, as part of that or something. So what he thinks happened is he might have pinched a nerve or like strained a muscle, but he was a little bit more concerned about possibly pinching a nerve. So the two options I was given was to either get him an x-ray and see if there's any like skeletal things going on, like if I don't quite understand what he was saying, so I can't remember it exactly, but you know, something to do with like joints or I don't know, something x-ray related we could have done, or he could just have an anti-inflammatory injection and then go home with some pills and monitor it and then possibly come back for an x-ray later. So what we ended up doing was he had the anti-inflammatory injection, which he was not happy about. That is when he did show some signs of pain, and but he was also trying to shake it out, and when he was shaking he didn't have pain. So it's hard to tell exactly what this little kiddo is actually feeling. But yeah, so we got that injection. I've got some pills. I've given him his first pill today. You know, you have to give it with food. I think it must be like a dog version of ibuprofen or something. You know, you're not supposed to take it on an empty stomach. So I've got to watch him for vomiting and diarrhea. But he's had those kinds of things before and never had that kind of reaction. So I think he's fine. I see you looking at me, dog. Yeah, so I just have to monitor him, and hopefully over the next week, if he's fine, okay, great. But he can't go for WALKs at the moment. He's not supposed to be jumping around at the moment, but he is jumping up on the ledges of the damn couch like a cat. He kept jumping up on my bed as well, and I'm like, you're not supposed to. And one of the reasons for that is, so last night, you know, we're trying to keep him quiet and all that, but he was trying to ask Mum to pick him up, and Mum tried to pick him up from the front of his body without supporting his bum, and he cried out again. I'm just glad he's doing better. I love the artwork on the CD and sleeve. Oh, awesome! Eee. I'm so happy because yeah, I did all the graphic design on the Rainbow Death Ray CDs, so that's all me. Yeah, right after I'd learned how to do a lot of graphic design stuff. So yeah, that was kind of fun. But yeah, with Hopi, right, so Mum picked him up without supporting his bum, and obviously that's strained the muscles in his back because his body is trying to hold the rest of his weight, and he was just like yelling out and crying again, so had to keep him quiet. And yeah, it was clear from that, like, you know, anytime he jumped down from a height, like an idiot, or even just going down a standard level step. So let me show you. So see that sort of regular size step, and we've had this pushed against that so that, like, you know, it was a little bit of cushioning, not so far for him to get down. Today he's been doing fine though, so he's just been using that to sit on in the sun. But yeah, no, even that smaller step, when he was going down the steps last night, he was in quite a bit of pain. So yeah, you know, he's really trying to make sure that he wouldn't jump down things last night. Because yeah, he did try it, and so much pain when he jumped down. I'm just like, dude, you really need to chill. You can't be this active right now. So overnight, hang on, before I move on to overnight, so with his treatment, right, so he's had these anti-inflammatories, and I think because, like, it's a painkiller kind of thing, it maybe is taking the edge off the pain, and so he thought he could do things like jump downwards, when actually, no, his body needs to recover, so he shouldn't be doing those things. But he tried anyway, because he's an animal. He doesn't really understand that, you know, you might not feel pain now, but if you do one of these things, you will. Yeah, so maybe that's why he tried it. But yeah, one of the reasons we went the anti-inflammatory route rather than straight into the x-ray is because at home he's very calm, but whenever he goes outside, especially to the vet, he's kind of terrified. Like, he's on the consultation table, but jumping up into my arm, and I'm having to hold him like this so that he won't struggle and won't try and jump anywhere, and he's just like, and so my shoulder, like this whole area is in so much pain just from like trying to hold him, and you know, all that. I was such an awkward angle as well, just to make sure that he's behaving and doing okay. Yeah, so he shakes the whole time at the vet, and you know, that's why the vet was, I guess, very careful. Like, when he's examining him, he could see that, you know, he's tense, and so didn't want to stretch him too much to cause one of those yelps. Because, like, I think the pain explains why Hope has anxiety problems, because if you think, he's had a lot of issues throughout his life. I haven't documented them all on video, but he's just like, every year at least, there's something, whether it's like his embarrassing bum problems or embarrassing boy problems where he needs sugar baths, and oh my god, so embarrassing. Or whether he's scratched his eye trying to chase BIRDS, or whether he's twisted his back and strained a muscle, pinched a nerve, or whatever. There's all kinds of things always happening to him. And then, like, before that, his hernia as well, periodically giving him pain until we got that fixed. It was expensive, but worth it, because it really changed his life around. If you think about, you know, you're a dog who doesn't really understand what's going on in the world, and you're always having these incidents that cause you pain, of course you start wondering, like, what is it that's going to cause me pain next, you know? So I think that explains his anxiety, because he had his hernia, I think, from birth. So obviously he's been in pain on and off since his birth. So yeah, explains why he's suspicious of everything, quite anxious, unless he's in a relatively controlled environment like his home. So yeah, anyway, he's super anxious at the vet, shaking, all that. And the thing is, if you were trying to do an x-ray, you know, you've got to lie him down on his side and get him to stay still. Good luck. So they would have to sedate him to be able to do that. And you know, for any of that kind of stuff, they were saying, like, he'd have to fast in the morning, come in, get sedated, get the x-ray done, recover for a bit, and then go home to keep recovering. It's kind of an ordeal. And obviously he'd already eaten yesterday, so to take him to the vet, to leave him there for an x-ray, it's not really going to happen. I went through a similar experience with my anxiety after a prolonged period of severe pain, and I knew what was happening. Well, yeah, so, you know, imagine not understanding what's going on, you know, poor little thing. He's pretty bright for a small dog, but he's still a dog. Yeah, so to leave him there for an x-ray just wasn't practical. And also I think it is more likely to be one of those issues that will just go away in time if we can keep him quiet enough. Because, you know, on Sunday, like, he was starting to recover, I guess, but because he kept going for WALKs in the morning and jumping around and whatever, of course his body didn't have time to recover. So that's what I think is going on there. And I think having the anti-inflammatory injection and waiting and seeing is probably better than just straight away doing the x-ray. So yeah, that's what's going on with the vet side of things. As for what I'm doing at home, so last night I just had to be very careful with him going up and down stairs even, and you know, him wanting pickups. You've got to pick him up very carefully. Like, even last night it was so bad that even the most careful pickup, it was very difficult to do in a way that didn't cause him to yelp. And then, you know, to get up onto the garden to pee, there's some steps. So I had to, like, instead of making him come back down the steps, I sort of had to go over to the ledge on the other side and be like, come here, and then gently lift him down to the ground. So tricky stuff there. So I pretty much, like, rather than just getting myself distracted on the internet, I just tried to, like, follow him around, make sure he was doing okay. And we ended up watching, I think, like 3 episodes of Air Crash Investigation. And he was just sort of sitting on my lap or next to me once he got a bit too hot, and just sort of fell asleep for ages, which I think was good for him, just to be quiet. You should have seen my family though, when we, like, you know, they did, I think we caught the end of the first episode. Then the second episode they played was a brand new one, and then the third episode was a really old one from season 2, which I have seen because I've watched a bunch of them, and I'm like, oh, I bet this is the TCAS one. And then in an ad break, like, turned to my family, who were all interested in what's going on, but not necessarily having the time to stay up so late watching it. And I'm like, here's what happens with the TCAS system and the mismatch between instructions of, do you follow TCAS or do you follow the air traffic controller? Nah. And my family's just like, everyone's gone silent. I think they were interested, but also like, oh my God, she's like insane. TCAS is what the crash avoidance system, and back in 2002, there wasn't an established protocol of, if you get conflicting instructions from TCAS as opposed to the air traffic control, whose instructions do you follow? And the Westerners followed TCAS because that's what they were taught to do, but the Russians, because they have a culture of much more hierarchy and all that, they followed the air traffic controller. And so, of course, instead of one plane going up and one plane going down, they both go down and hit each other, which was a big oversight by the body who organizes flight rules. But anyway, that's not the point of this so far. Okay. Tangent. Yeah, we watched Air Crash Investigation, and he was okay, and then I sort of gently lifted him off the couch, so take him out for a wee, bring him back, and then, okay, usually Hope, he has his own little teenager spot. I think I showed last live stream under the table. and he sleeps in a basket. But I took the basket away because I don't want him jumping into it and jumping out of it. So the stuff that lined the basket, I just took that out and put it on the ground. But I didn't let him sleep out there because I don't want him running around the house doing things that I can't monitor. So I made him sleep in my room, which he usually sleeps in my room in the morning, but he does like to wander. But yeah, no, I was just like, no, I'm shutting the door. Usually I leave the door ajar so he can go in and out. No, I closed the door, which he was not happy about. Part of the reason to keep him in was also to stop him from, you know, trying to make mum and dad take him out in the morning because they go for WALKs at like 5 a.m. Which is just crazy. So at 5 a.m. he could hear them moving around and was trying to scratch on my door and whimpering, trying to get out. And I'm just like, no, you can't, you've got to stay. And then when they got back from the WOK, because of course they're taking Marley, the Labrador, so a bit of jealousy, why aren't you taking me kind of thing. When they came back, I let him out, let him go for a wee, let him run around with mum supervising, and I went back to bed. Then when everyone's left and mum's taking Mikey to his day program, I brought Hope back in my room and closed the door again. And then when she came back home, I opened the door, let him out, and I'm just like, I did not sleep well. Especially this morning is just like interrupted, patchy sleep. But I think also, you know, sort of worrying about him a bit last night. So yeah, I'm really tired. So if I'm like jumping between things, that's why. It's because my brain ain't working. But I did sort of get snippets of sleep. You know, from that 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. Oh, yeah, 8:30 I think mum would have left, and then coming back around 9:30, 10. I don't know, I haven't really been paying attention to the time. And then trying to get a little bit more sleep. Yeah, I ended up having some quite odd dream sequence in between all that. And I don't quite remember the start. Like, I remember sort of the vibe of the start. You know how when you have a dream and if you don't write it down straight away, it starts fading off and you still have a sense of what happened, but you can't quite grab it. So that's what the start of this dream's like. You know, I think I was either in a car or in a house or something, and I forgot to take my phone or whatever, and I was going to check on something. I'm like, oh, we'll figure out how to get back in touch later. Something like that. And then getting lost in a city or something and being like, gee, I don't actually know how to get back. And then when I'm saying this, I get flashes of different things that happened that I don't know how they fit into the story or if it's relevant even talking about them. But then the part that I do remember. Okay, so I head to Nando's with a coupon kind of thingy, which is like, at the moment they actually have a coupon, which is like if you go twice within a certain time period, you can go into this competition to win a trip to Melbourne or something. And I'm like, yeah, it could be nice, except that I won't have the chance to go to Nando's twice. But I think that's why I've got coupons in my head. But the coupon in my dream was to do with getting a llama plushie. I actually do have a llama plushie. It's a super llama from DeviantArt. Dreams do tend to have a lot of psychological meaning. I could try to analyze some in PM if you wanted. Yeah, no, I think I sort of know where this dream comes from in my head. I mean, it's all just like bits and pieces, right? But yeah. Anyway, so I go with this coupon to ask them how do I cash it in and get my llama plushie. And they directed me to some other place, and it turned out to be like this sort of like a corridor, sort of like, I don't know if everywhere has this, but in, like, we go to Chatswood a lot. In Chatswood, you've got the Westfield shopping mall, and then you've got the car park, and then there's like a little bridge across it from the car park to the shopping mall kind of thing, that sort of thing. It gave me the impression of that as a corridor, like, but with a height aspect to it, and within that is sort of like it's sort of like an obstacle course, but also like those bridges where you have like the V-shaped ropes sort of thing and you're walking in the middle of it. Reminds me of like one of the obstacles over at Taronga Zoo's Wild Ropes, which I've done a couple of times. And then so it's kind of obstacle course, but kind of an easy one. And then you're looking up at the sides and there's like these weird little information boxes about I don't know what. And so, you know, I think those get distracting because I have a tendency to just read everything on them. But I couldn't remember anything, anything from that. So I eventually make it down, and it turns out there's people waiting behind me as well. I'm just like, where did you people come from? So I walk down along this sort of obstacle course, get to the end, and that's where it gets super weird because so I'm tied with a rope with someone else who I think is basically another version of me. And there's someone trying to do some voodoo kind of stuff to us, like, I don't know, sorcery, whatever. And yeah, very strange. I think like trying to make us into one person or something like that. And so that feeds into my whole split personality kind of thing. Hey, and then after that, I guess that's when I woke up, which is how these dreams tend to go, is like there'll be something like that going on. And then I wake up and I'm just like, oh, okay, that's gonna make me feel weird for the rest of the day as I ponder that one. But yeah, so that's the gist of the dream. Probably makes more sense in my head because it comes with pictures in my head and it's impossible to describe every aspect of what I can see in my mind. Yeah, so I think I tend to remember my dreams most when I have that wake up because everything's noisy, then go back to sleep, then wake up again. I think that's when I tend to remember most of my dreams, and it's probably because it's sort of a lighter dream, and then if I get into REM sleep and like it's kind of an interrupted kind of thing, you know, my conscious mind's more able to access what's going on in my brain, reorganizing information in that way. Yeah, but that's probably like the strongest one I've had in a while, and with those kinds of themes going on in it. I kind of want Nando's too, but anyway, so yeah, that's basically what's happened in the last. When did that happen? I think I tried to take them out about 4 p.m. and that's when all this went crazy. Nando's is yum. Yeah, I love lemon and herb. That's my choice. Anyway, so yeah. As for the rest of the week, that's also been its own thing, hasn't it? So if you remember my Saturday video with the damn hormones, that took a few days to wear off. And it's always tough when you have that kind of situation. Like, obviously, my mood, I think, was definitely caused by me messing with my hormones by accident. Because in the lead up, when I'd forgotten to take the pills, I was feeling a bit garbage. And then when I took too many all at once, I was feeling garbage. And then for a couple days after that, I was still feeling garbage, finding it hard to concentrate, finding it hard to motivate myself, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, so that sucked. But once it wore off, I was like, hey, I'm fine again. Like, oh, that definitely was just the hormones and stuff. Whereas, like, while I was going through it, I was like, gee, I wonder if I'm getting depressed again. But no, thankfully, it's just the hormones messing with my head. So, yay for that. Yay for feeling better. But I will say, like, so that ruins the start of my week, made me very tired. And so usually I would try and do a video early in the week, and I just ended up not doing it because I couldn't think clearly enough to plan out, like, gee, what do I want to say in a video today? And I'm just like, couldn't focus enough to figure it out. Like, I've got so many things I want to make videos on, but I could not just get my brain into it. On top of that, I'm busy finishing my new song, which now with Hope having his dramas, I got like nothing done yesterday afternoon, and now I'm so tired. I'm like, I wonder if I'll get anything done today, especially because I keep having to watch him and make sure he's fine. Now he's finally settled. You know, he's just snoozing there up on the couch. There he is there, just in case that was, yeah, he likes being a sort of a cat like that. I don't like that he's up there because at some point he's going to have to jump down, and he has jumped down a couple of times today and he's been fine. It's just like, dude, you're supposed to be recovering. And you know, how do you tell that to an animal? It's very difficult. He's also very BORED, and yeah, it keeps trying to make me play with the TOY, and I'm just like, no, you're not supposed to be doing that. I'm really sorry. You know, part of the reason you feel good is because you're on painkillers. But anyway, what was I saying just before that? No, I'm trying to finish this new song, right? I want to finish it by the end of the week, because if I can get a spot at the open mic in August, I spent all weekend sanding and painting my first Gundam mobile set. Oh, suit model. Yeah, I've never done anything quite like that. I got like a plastic Evangelion model from someone a while back, and but yeah, no painting or anything involved in that. Yeah, no, I'm trying to finish this song because I want to try and perform next month, and I feel like I need a month to rehearse and try and get some fitness back, because this new song is going to be quite difficult because it's got a lot more growling in it and much wordier growling, and yeah, so I'm going to be using a lot of air. I have gotten good enough at it that I can pull it off, but there's a difference between doing something at home where things are a little bit more controlled and doing things on a stage where you're trying to put on a performance and you've been jumping around and getting tired and all that. You need more fitness for that. So I feel like, you know, I really need a month to prepare if I'm going to do that next month, especially like next month is my birthday. The gig happens to be on around my birthday. I'm like, well, instead of a party, let's do that, because I'm not a fan of parties, but some people want parties, so let's say it's a gig instead. I miss that high you get from performing. Yeah, it's a good feeling. It's just like I would rather do it with a band rather than having to carry the whole performance myself and all the other things involved in that. But seeing as I don't have a band, performing solo is pretty much my only option. So yeah. Anyway, so that's another thing that's been on my mind this week, is trying to finish the lyrics, because I think actually I'm happy with the music pretty much. It's the lyrics and the story that I want to tell that I'm struggling with, and then also leaving enough space for me to take a breath when it's a really long growled passage, because my growling method uses a lot of air. If I was just doing fry, wouldn't be an issue because fry doesn't use much air. But I'm not really mad keen on fry. It turns out I can do fry. It's just that I think it sounds bad because the way that I feel it, it doesn't feel like a scream to me. It doesn't make sense. So yeah. Anyway, so that's been on my mind. And then also employment related things. So, you know, I'm still waiting for the gaming guys. The submissions finished last night, and they've sent an email out saying, hey, we've got all the submissions. We'll let you know what we decide sometime in the next week or so. And I'm just like, I still gotta wait. But yeah, so sort of wondering about what is going to happen with that. It just sort of weighs on you, right? Like, I can't control the outcome. I've done my part of that with going to the interview, submitting my example video and all that. It's just a matter of wait and see. But you know, the uncertainty does kind of hover over you, and it's a little bit distracting, so it's been hard to think. So, you know, I had my problem with the hormones early in the week, and then trying to get this song finished this week with my own self-imposed deadline, and then knowing that this job thing is sort of, you know, impending. I hope something comes out how you envision. Hope something. Yeah. Oh my god, I can't even read properly. So tired. Yeah, the song's going pretty well. I'm pretty happy with it. There are a few things that feel like they need tweaking, especially with the way that I say things. Because I know I need to take a breath, there are some notes that I shortened a bit too much, and I need to lengthen them until the point where I definitely need to take a breath before I do the next note. I just need to get that refined. So if for anyone who's on Patreon, I did post a clip of me just singing it to the phone, what I've got so far. At the end, I've run out of lyrics though, so I just go blah, blah, blah. But yeah, you got the sort of gist of that. I think it's sounding fine, and it's got like the storytelling behind it, I think is coming across nicely. What was that? That's the worst. I have trouble dealing with uncertainty the most. Yeah, this having that uncertainty hanging over me, like, will I have a job in the next week or so or not? And if not, I guess, like, depending on what happens, there's different things that I'll need to do in my life, and I feel like I can't really plan where I'm going until I know what's happening there. And then also this week, some correspondence with Punk Rave Australia trying to sort out a thing. And yeah, I hope I didn't come across as rude, but there were some things that kind of needed to be said. But yeah, I'm still waiting for them to put my video up, but they just put up Porcelain Purgatory's video, which is quite a long, extensive one on like this full set men's outfit, which is like, you know, you should just even just having a look at the thumbnail, you're like, wow, there's so much stuff in there, and it's just like, it's really interesting. But yeah, no, they just put that one out, so it will, if they're sensible, it will be a while before mine goes up after that. The frustrating thing, like waiting so long, is I've had all my like Instagram stuff and whatever, like I've even written the description to go with it, and I haven't read it again, so now I'm like, I hope it still says what I want it to say. But anyway, I've had like all those things ready to go, and it's just like, I want to post things already. My Instagram, I have not paid attention to my Instagram this month. I think just like, what's been happening this month? Maybe I've been focusing too much on, oh, I know, I think it's because like the start of this month was when I applied for the job, and so maybe that's been hovering a bit, and then trying to write the song as well. That's probably just been those two things the entire month, and so I've not been able to think about Instagram, like taking photos of myself wearing clothes, and also like with Destroyer stuff, not feeling as strong. I have less drive to dress up. I'm much more likely to dress up if that is pushing me. So yeah, I've sort of been a bit of a slob. Leave an ad-lib layer on the instrumental to help you perform and be able to take a breath practice around those spots to see where you need a backup vocal. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Yeah, I'm not sure what you mean by that. I kind of have like this Word document, and I will sort of like, I've got my instrumental track, right? And I will sort of like just get rhythm going on it. And then sometimes I might even write the rhythm as an onomatopoeia kind of thing in my Word document, just to count how many syllables I need for the words. But it doesn't always work, because when I'm writing growls, I tend to use fry, just because like I'm trying to be quiet, and whereas if I'm gonna be using false chord, I've got to make sure my diaphragm's engaged so much more. I know they say you should, what are you doing, Hopi? Oh my god, I'm just like, he's jumped down for one thing, which I don't want him doing, and now he's like burying his head in a pillow. Oh my god, you dodgy dog. You're supposed to be chilling, relaxing. Oh my god, he's gonna jump down, is he? Well, at least he's sitting on the ground in the sun now. I'm supposed to go to lunch with Mum tomorrow, but I'm a bit like, should I stay home and keep an eye on this guy? Because, you know, if he does stupid things while I'm out and ends up in a lot of pain again, and I'm not here, he's gonna have to wait for me to get home, and I'm like, oh, I worry a bit. On the other hand, he seems fine though, so maybe he can be at home on his own. Record the whole song rough, then practice to a rough vocal recording track, practice and see where you run out of air. No, I don't really need to do that. I just like, I write the lyrics, and I use vocal fry just to get the vibe, and then when I want to check the air, I mean, I sort of know how long I can do a thing before I need air, but sometimes just to double check, that's when I will sing along to the track and then be like, okay, this is where I need to maybe cross out a word that didn't need to be there and use that as a breath spot or whatever. So I just do that. I don't need to record it, because like once I do it, I just know. Yeah, so that's kind of how I go about that sort of thing. And it's fine. I did have to cross out one little word, but now it's working. And then there's one rhythmic thing that I'm still a little bit like, because I need to take a breath, I feel like it doesn't work as well as I wanted it to. But I do want this particular long word to still be in there. And if I'm going to have that long word without putting a random breath in the middle of the word, then it kind of has to be this other rhythm. And then sort of thinking, okay, if I go away for a bit, come back and listen to it again, does it still sound wrong, or is it just because I had an expectation of what it was meant to be and now I've changed it and that's what made it sound weird? Like, to someone with fresh ears, what would it sound like? So, I did record the full, story so far, and I've got that I can listen back to, but it's not something I'll go back to a lot. It's just sort of to give myself an idea of how well I can do it. It still is going to be hard because there are some bits where I need to take a really fast breath. But I seem to be doing that fine. It's just going to be much harder once I'm on stage. So I really need to do some more aerobic exercise and get my lungs going. Because, one of the things that sucks about singing is because I'm a small female, I have naturally small lungs. And it's like, there's only so much I can do to maximize that capacity. And then there is a maximum, there's not a whole lot you can do past a certain point. So, I'm pretty good at air management, I think, but and I could stand to get fitter, but at some point I will hit my limit, and it's sort of like how far can I push this? Anyway, it had to be false chord growling though, because that's what I'm most confident with. That's the sound that I like. It's also the deepest sound I have. So this song has some pretty heavy split personality themes because that's what's been on my mind lately. So I try to use the deep growls as one character's voice and then switching into my higher clean singing as the other voice. Although I have had to make a compromise with the clean singing because I used to sing mainly in mixed voice for those high notes, which was a lot easier for me to do. So mixed voice, and then now I've gotten better at chest voice and sort of that higher level belting. So you can do it. Hey! I've gotten better at belting, so now when I go from false chord, right, if false chord growling uses so much air, and I've noticed when I false chord growl, it kind of helps open up my whole vocal system, and I'm better at just like singing louder and all that kind of stuff. So because this song has so much false chord growling, when I get up to the clean singing bit, the mixed voice just sounds too weak. Like, I do want that girly sound because that's the most extreme other end of my vocals, but I'm now so much better at chest voice that I can actually achieve that in chest voice, and it feels much more natural while I'm still already using so much air to go into that chest voice instead of head voice. Mixed voice. I don't know how much this is making sense, but so, what's the note? La, la, that's like mixed voice, but if I haven't warmed up today, but if I do chest voice belting more style, be like, hey, it's the same notes, hey, hey, so it's a different tone, and I think the chest voice has a bit more of an aggressive kind of feel. It's less of a girly kind of feel. And I'm like, well, to perform that live at least, maybe on the studio recording I can do the softer version, but to perform it live, I know I'm going to want to slip into the chest voice. And I'm sort of like, okay, that's a compromise, I guess, just because I'm already using so much air. Whereas if I do the girlier one after using so much air, it just doesn't feel right. And it's easier to sing some bits in chest voice, which never used to be the case. So that's something I've sort of had to think about a little bit. But on the other hand, in the bridge, right, the bridge is right before what I'm sort of conceptualizing in my head might be a bit of a transformational moment. And one of the things you can do with chest voice that I can't really do with head voice is add a little bit of grit to it. So not really transitioning to false chord. I think that would be a bit too extreme. But just this sort of subtle grit at the end, if I can get that going, easier to do in the chest voice. So it's like, do I sacrifice the girly stuff earlier on to be able to do this thing later on? It's like symbolism. Where do you want to put it? And I don't want to be doing two different types of clean singing because the notes are too similar. If I was singing really high, then I would definitely use mixed voice, but I think in this key and for what I'm going for, it's not going to make sense to go too high, to write something high. I'm not going to be able to use the right notes. I don't even know if that's the right. Hey, I don't think I could get the next octave up. What's the highest I can sing? don't look at me like that, Hopi. Oh my god, I better not make high-pitched noises. He gets a little bit excited because he thinks of the guinea pigs. He still remembers Puddy and will go and look for him if I say his name, so let's not go there. And then, yeah, those ridiculously high notes, I can hit them, but that doesn't mean they sound good while I'm singing. So yeah, I think maybe the chest voice. But what do I mean by the grit? So what is the... I think that's the general melody of the bridge got to be for the vocals. But the grit, okay, so if I transition, I'll just pick a random note. If it's like, hey, what I can do at the end is, hey, hey, add that sort of gritty noise over it. Whereas if I'm singing that in the mixed voice, hey, hey, what was the note? Was it hey, hey? I can't go into the grit. Hey, it's much more abrupt, and it's difficult. Hey, hey. I still have to go through that chest voice transition, I think, to really be able to get it. So, yeah, bit of a dilemma. Which one do I do? And I think I actually like the sort of chest voice one better. It just means that I'm not going to sound as sweet and girly earlier on. The way you think of the vocals, tones, and changes you could play with in producing the track audio layers. Yeah, at the moment, though, I'm mainly thinking about performing live, and I don't want to be having too many backup vocals in the backing track. I prefer to do live stuff as live as possible. There is, if you remember my Asexuality EP in You Won't, there is that Japanese section where it's like different layers. I think in the studio recording, it maybe doesn't show through as well because... yeah, I don't know. Sometimes maybe I should try and mix things myself just to make sure it's exactly how I meant it. But anyway, so it starts off with that watashi wa, and then the next one watashi wa, and then above that watashi wa, and then when it's live, obviously I can't do 3 voices at once, so I do have that build up. I have what I do live. I start singing the low bit, and then the low bit will come in on the backing track. Meanwhile, I go up to the next one, and then the backing track will come up to the next one, and then I'll go to the highest. So I do the main bits that are the most noticeable, which probably on the studio version you will hear your brain will naturally gravitate to the low, then the next one, then the next one. So it's kind of like that effect, but it still has the other things going on underneath. But yeah, no, the guy who mixed and mastered that for me, so helpful, because I'm not confident with mixing my own stuff, and especially doing mastering type stuff. I mean, of course there's stuff that I would want to tweak, but he was helping me out, and yeah, I'm a little bit sad that I haven't heard much from him in the last little while, but hey, people have lives, what can you do? Anyway, so yeah, sort of thinking about how to do the vocals. I think I've got the general gist of it. It's just mainly lyrics I need to fill in, and yeah, trying to tell the story that I want to tell, because I tend to approach songs in a storytelling way. Like, it has to mean something, and having a storytelling kind of thing is maybe the easiest way for me to get my head around that. But yeah, so that's that stuff. Wow, how did I get onto that? I don't know. I'm just like, yeah, this every month I feel like I get busy somehow, even though I'm not really doing a whole lot with my life. But hey, whatever. And then this week particularly, I feel like I was more productive earlier in the month despite some of the things going on. But yeah, this week it's just been one thing after another, all these different things hanging over me. Now Hope's gotta be recovering, and I did not sleep well at all. So yeah, I think I also just need to leave the house more. I'm getting a little bit, blob-like, and I really shouldn't. So hey, my god, there's this tiny little fly that just keeps passing by. I don't think you can even see it on the camera, and it's just giving me the shits. It's like one of those fruit flies or that kind of size. I don't know. I just keep seeing this little dot pass me by. And it's just... Anyway, so that's been my week. That's been Hopi. That's generally the summary of my month, I guess. I I'm getting closer to finishing this song. I just really need to sit down and do it. Like, you know, I think some of the reason I'm not making as much. You did see the fly? Okay, so good. Yeah, I'm not making this shit up. It just keeps. Anyway, yeah. What was I? Oh, so tired. Just like did not really sleep well at all. I was sort of just aware of being half awake for ages. Anyway, yeah, I don't remember what I was just about to say. I can't even retain things in my brain. It's been a hard week, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, no, I completely lost my train of thought. Wow. Well, I had to finish this song. Oh, that's what I was gonna say. So I think, like, I'm not confident with my music writing. Music doesn't come so naturally to me. It's one of those things that I've actually had to go and learn things and practice and whatever. But one of the things that I think just holds me back is my own self-doubt. And, you know, like, it's easier to procrastinate than to try something that's difficult. So yeah, I think sometimes I fall into that trap. But once I sit down, if I sit down with enough purpose, it does seem to happen. Although, like, I mean, earlier I did try, I think maybe last month it must have been, I did try and sit down and just, like, play with instruments and stuff, and I didn't make any progress. It made me really frustrated. Nothing was working. It was horrible. But that was the first time I'd sat down in a while to try and write any music, and I also didn't have any clear focus. It was just like, I'm going to try and write something. And so I just played with synths, and nothing sounded good and whatever. Whereas the next time I sat down, I had a song that I wanted to take some elements from to help me write my own song. And I think the way that I write is probably I need to have a reference track of some sort to have like a guidance and scaffolding. You know, you do have to be very careful when you do that because, I mean, you can't copyright chord progressions and so on, but there is this point where you're taking too much from a song. So you have to be careful with that. Like, how much of another song do you take into your own song? How much do you need to change before it becomes your own? It's a difficult thing, but I do find that taking, like, analyzing other people's music and then finding elements I like and incorporating them into a song is probably the way that I need to write music to make sure I get something done. And then there's a certain point where it starts becoming my own, and then I start having my own ideas to go with it, and that's when I feel like I'm writing music. Otherwise, I just sit there and I have no idea what I'm doing. It's very unusual for me to write a song from scratch without having some other kind of thing. I think on the Asexuality EP, Comrades was the only one that I really did from scratch, and that was partly because, like, the chord progression in that starts off with, like, probably like A minor, C minor, E minor, because I'm spelling out ace. There's a lot of weird symbolism in that entire EP, but hey, yeah, so that one I had a chord progression I was determined to use, even though for a long time it sounded like garbage. I was just like, no, the symbolism is important. I need to have this progression. And so that one is one that I did just sit down without any reference tracks. The rest of the songs on that album, I had some song in mind that I had analyzed the crap out of and taken bits from. And actually, you know, I was worried for a while that they sounded too much like the songs I'd borrowed from, but I was listening to it the other day, having not listened to it for ages, because it's awkward listening to yourself sometimes, and I was like, wow, I know which songs I based them around, but they sound so different now, and I'm like, okay, so I did achieve that goal of using another song as scaffolding without copying it too much. That's nice. But yeah, it gives you a bit of doubt at the time, like, you know, because you're so close to the entire thing that you just keep seeing the original song and you're like, oh no, I've used too much. What am I going to do? How do I keep changing it? I guess maybe because I have that concern, I do end up doing more to change the song, and then it becomes even more my own. Have you ever heard of a Japanese album, Flower Traveling Band, Anywhere 1970? No, I have no idea what that is. But yeah, no, so sitting down, having my own method, and actually I think I'm starting to properly develop my own sound. I think the Asexuality EP did really help me get a better idea of my own sound. Like, one of my frustrations with music is good. one of my frustrations with writing music is this, that like the songs that I write never sound like the things that I listen to. Like, you know, Rainbow Death Ray, it's sort of metal but sort of not. And you know, the things where I've written guitars, because I wrote most of the stuff, so I also wrote most of the gist of the guitars, and then sometimes like the guitarist will interpret over what I've written, just to like add extra bits, but the basis of it is stuff that I've written for most of the songs, and I suck at guitar, so it's actually quite simple music. Just I think the complicated synthy type of things might distract people from realizing how simple it is. But yeah, no, Rainbow Death Ray never sounded like anything I actually listened to. And that's frustrating because to some extent, like, you know, I don't enjoy every one of the songs. Like, they're okay. It's just like some I'm less excited by than others. You know, excited enough that I was happy to perform them. But yeah, they didn't have the aggro that I wanted. Our Rainbow Death Ray EP does contain our softer songs, and I still think, gee, should I record the heavier songs at some point? And I might. Just like, you know, with the band being all over the place now, it's like I think I would have to probably either do my own guitar playing, which sucks, or get someone just to, like, as a guest to help me out. I don't know, I haven't figured it out, and it's not something that's pressing for me at the moment. But even our heavier songs, not really the stuff that I listen to, not really the bands that I wanted to be in. So yeah, that's kind of frustrating. On the other hand, because none of it sounds like stuff I listen to, it does have my own kind of sound. And you know, with my Asexuality EP and also my new song, I use a lot of synths in sort of a very dry kind of way that is a bit reminiscent of the old video games, like 8-bit music or whatever, which I kind of like. And I don't know, I guess it's all kind of weaving together in my own kind of weird style, and I should just not worry too much that it doesn't sound like the music I listen to, because some of it's fine. It's just, yeah, I don't know, frustrating. I mean, it's annoying that I still haven't found a band, but what can you do? But, you know, with a band, there are some bands out there looking for vocalists who just don't want chicks, but who have the sound that I'm like, oh yeah, I could get into that, you know, with the right beats and right riff kind of vibe, the kinds of stuff I couldn't write myself because I don't know how, and I suck at guitar. And when I try and learn guitar, I mean, I've made some progress on guitar, but I started out on violin, and violin strings are so much nicer than guitar strings. I hate guitar strings. That old album is very good. It's so good that whole record is the soundtrack to an action movie, Deadly Outlaw. Oh, what's going on? And the other record, I like 8-bit and synthwave. Oh my god, there's this 8-bit version of Going Under, the Evanescence song, somewhere on the internet. That one, it reminds me of like Pocket Bomberman music. It's just like, and it sounds like boss music as well. It's really cool. You know, like I know it's Evanescence, but once you turn it into that 8-bit stuff, it's got this, yeah, boss music, you know, Game Boy Battle, whatever. Yeah. Anyway, so I guess I have my own sound. It's just I also want guitars, and I can't play guitars myself. But I also don't want to be like the head writer, main band person again. If I have to be the main person, I'm like, fuck it, it'll just be my solo project, because it's less complicated that way. So yeah, you know, people are like, oh, do you want to start a band with me? And I'm like, yeah, maybe. I mean, do you write music? And then half the time I don't get anything in reply. And I'm like, the reason I ask is like, I don't mind handling band management and graphic design and social media and all these kinds of things, but one thing you could really help me with to reduce my stress levels is help out with the writing. Because the writing, for me at least, is the hardest bit. You know, I get the least enjoyment out of writing. Writing vocals, I enjoy, but the music itself, I go through so much anxiety and so much stress and so much frustration because it's not sounding how I want it to sound, especially if I have an idea in my brain. You know, sometimes I have an idea in my head of what I want something to sound like, and then I try and do it and it never sounds like what was in my head. Whereas if I borrow from someone else's song, it's much easier to get a sound I'm happy with. I don't know why that is. I'm like, what about my original idea that's in my head? Why can't I get that to work? Have you heard of Grimes? The only thing that pops into my head when you say Grimes is like Frank Grimes, the Simpsons character, who he keeps having bad shit happen to himself because he's not Homer Simpson. My brain makes random connections like that sometimes. What are you doing now, Hopi? I hope you're not going to be jumping on things. Oh god, I'm really worried about this dog, but he seems fine today. It's just like, I just don't want him to jump around and do something stupid and put his back out again. Oh my god, can't believe I have a dog who's putting his back out like my dad. Hey Hopi, what are you doing? What are you doing, kiddo? Huh? Causing me trouble? Yeah? Yeah. I'm sorry, I won't make you think we're doing anything. Ah. What's a good song from Grimes? Oh, that's you guys talking to each other. That's cool. Yeah, no. I actually haven't been listening to as much music over the past few years. Like, I think once I got depressed, that really screwed me up for music. I stopped going to local gigs and stopped listening to new stuff. Although I was probably slowing down listening to new stuff. But I also had the money to pay for new stuff, whereas now I don't. Well, performers and producers her own music. She uses a lot of synth, falsetto, and growls. Oh, okay, interesting. I guess I'll try and, like maybe if you remind me, I'll try and look that up at some point. But yeah, no, I find it hard to listen to new music for some reason. Maybe I'm past that stage where you're forming your music interests, where you keep absorbing stuff. Maybe I've gotten into like old woman kind of thing where I've already got an idea of the music I like and it's very hard for me to accept new stuff. I think that's like the you know how there's always a difference between older generations and new generations with music. I think it's possible I've hit that point where I'm no longer open to new stuff, because I don't know, brain stuff, it's some people though do seem to keep taking in new stuff, so I don't know. It's just, yeah. But also, I think having gone through that whole depression just sort of threw me out of the habit, and I haven't been seeing a lot of live music, so it's been hard to get excited because I don't really experience a lot of excitement unless I'm on stage. So, yeah. What's this? You've listed some albums from Grimes, I think. So Oblivion, Art Angels is a good album. I got into a lot of Japanese music. I love old records, but I still try to check stuff. Yeah, I mean, there's some new stuff. So there's this band called Dirty Shirt, who are quite interesting. They combine metal with like some wacky stuff. It sort of reminds you of Diablo Swing Orchestra, but they're different and don't have as annoying vocals. I think Diablo Swing Orchestra sometimes had that really high operatic vocal, which is fun for a bit, but if you listen to a lot of it, it's a bit like baby metal where you kind of need to take a break after a certain point because it just gets a little bit too much, too shrill and too, yeah, you just need to chill out. I feel like Dirty Shirt doesn't do that as much, and they've got some fun stuff. There's some fun music videos. But I haven't listened to a whole lot. Yeah. Baby metal. Yeah. What? I guess there was a delay on the message with the baby metal thing. Hey. Yeah, it's a bit too much. And I haven't kept up with baby metal for a while. I think I just got their first album and then sort of stopped paying attention. So I know they've done other stuff. I know one of the girls left. It's hard for me to care about music after all that. I think like if I can get myself back into the local scene and back on stage some more, that'll probably help because there is something about being on stage with all the adrenaline and guitar side too. Yeah, I think I heard something about that. But yeah, I feel like it would be easy for me to care about music if I'm more involved. For me, like it's the same thing with sport and all this kind of stuff. For a lot of these things, I find it easier to be the person doing it rather than the person watching. Yeah, so if I'm actually on the stage, I feel like I'm more engaged with the whole music thing. And that's not something I have at the moment. I am trying to go on stage as a soloist again, but in the meantime, and also that's not the same as being in a band, because also with a band every week you're engaging with music at rehearsals. I mean, hopefully you're practicing every week at least, and you just stay much more involved with the whole thing. Whereas now, at the moment, I'm sort of floating between things in my life. There's not a lot that's urgent. Yeah, and I haven't been able to find a band. I sort of stopped looking for a while because I am working on this new song and I don't need the distraction of having to audition for people or whatever. So once I finish this new song, I might start looking again, and then in the meantime keep writing my own stuff. Because at some point I'd like to have an EP, but I don't want to give myself hard deadlines if I'm also looking for a band. So goal would be like maybe an EP by the end of the year, but if I find a band in the meantime, or if I get distracted by auditions, there's no big deal. I used to search YouTube a lot for new music, but since I started working, I've lost interest in a lot of things. Yeah, it's hard once you fall out of habits. So yeah, be nice if I could find a band and sort of get re-engaged. And there's some things about a band that I miss that, you know, I can't really do on my own. So yeah, lots to think about with me in music. When you create, it's different, so you have to be true to how you feel for it to be right to you. Just relax, it's all good. Yeah, I think with writing a new EP as well, I've left it a little bit late because last year, when I wrote my asexuality EP, I did that in the first half of the year as my final Masters of Art project thingy. And then after that, I went into the recording, the vocals process, and then getting my friend to mix and master it for me and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, so whereas at the moment, I'm only in the process of writing one song, and then if I want to write, say, 3 or 4 other songs, that's going to be its own process as well, and it's harder without an educational deadline. For me, sometimes those external deadlines are much more, they're much better at motivating me compared to deadlines that I make myself. So yeah, there's that. And, you know, then once I've written the songs, then I have to do all the recording. It'll just be vocal recording because the rest of it's electronic, but, you know, it's still, I need to find the time to do it, make sure the neighbors don't have the damn leaf blower going, and then make sure I'm happy with the results, do all the editing, blah, blah, blah. You know, it is kind of time consuming even just doing vocals because I don't have the greatest setup, all that kind of stuff. And then mixing and mastering, and I'm like, should I try it myself? Maybe I should just try and mix it myself, maybe get someone else to master, I don't know. But it's hard because I don't have a huge amount of income at the moment, so it's not like I could just go to someone and be like, hey, can I pay you to do this? Yeah. Tricky stuff, but I will work something out. If I don't get an EP out this year, I'll do it next year. It's no big deal. But I will have one song out. And there's the other thing is like, maybe I just release this as a single. Maybe I don't need a whole EP. So, you know, depends. There's so many things so many ways I could go with it, you know. I think I prefer the EP thing, but, you know, the marketing gurus say you should just do singles, and I'm like, well, do I really want to go and market myself? I didn't bother marketing the asexuality EP. I just sent it to a couple of asexual groups, which I don't really want to get too close to. So like part of the reason for not promoting is I don't want to be too associated with that group because of shit that happened a couple of years ago. And you know, my last song is kind of about some of that shit, but anyway. And then also like, I just didn't have confidence in that being something I wanted to promote just as me as a musician, you know. So I haven't really focused on the promotional stuff. I feel like if I was in a band, yes, okay, sure, I would promote. But when it's my solo stuff, it's hard to find reasons to promote it, especially because I haven't been so keen on doing heaps of solo performances. I just feel like, what would I be promoting for? You know, to sell a couple of tracks. You know, I don't feel enough for the project yet that I'd want to go and promote it heaps. Yeah, so I don't really have that motivation to just release a single. But if a single is all I have, maybe that's what I do. There's lots to think about with this music stuff. But yeah, I still would prefer to be in a band, but hey. What can you do? I will finish this song and try and perform it next month, and then after that I might get back into looking for a band. Like I might just go back to posting an ad on Gumtree or wherever and see what bites. Maybe I won't put so much detail as the ad. Like I put so much detail saying these are the genres I'm into. I really need people who are good communicators, blah blah, and I think that just puts off people because musicians don't like to read, which but you know, I don't know. It's frustrating when they don't read because, like, if all our communication is mainly text based and you're trying to write them a message, hey, we're going to do this thing, and they don't read it, that's a problem. So I'm like, should I test them for reading skills, or should I just see what bites and then find out if they can read or not? I don't know. Or at least be organized. I don't know. There are some things about being solo that are good. Like, you don't have to wait for people to do things. You don't have to deal with sarcastic replies. You don't have to deal with people messing things up. But if I can find a band that's serious, that has their shit together, that's what I want. Artist creators don't really like all that extra after creating stuff. Yeah, I know. And it's just like, you kind of need to do all the extra stuff, you know? It's unfortunate, but that's just how it is. And, you know, if the band isn't willing to promote, you know, if the rest of the band members aren't willing to do at least the minimum level of promotion, that's why so many bands just won't get anywhere, you know? You need to have everyone involved in some capacity. That's one of the reasons Rainbow Death Ray did better than Winter Gaunt, because in Winter Gaunt, the guys weren't that interested in promoting. It was mainly me trying and not really knowing what I was doing at the time as well. Whereas with Rainbow Death Ray, I mean, I had a bit more experience, but also most of the girls were into it, and you know, were trying. It was also their first serious band, though. I was the only person with like actual band experience, so I did end up doing a fair bit of stuff. But at least they were trying, so you know, and talking to people about it, and you know, doing some of that promotion. And we went on some long poster runs, walking all over Sydney, putting up posters and trying to hit all the. They have these poles in the city specifically for posters, so trying to go between all them, and they're quite far apart. Oh, it's hard doing poster runs though. I like that we did get people saying, "Hey, we found out about you from a poster," so that made it worthwhile. It's just like, there's a lot of negativity around putting posters up, and because the things are so far away, it's like, oh, so much walking. I did 25,000 steps one day. We walked about 24k, I think. It's just like, oh my god, so much exercise. But at least I was fit then. Now I'm not fit. That fucking depression really killed a lot of my fitness, and it's been hard to get back into it because I don't have anything going on in my life. Like when I was doing the band, for a while I was at uni, and then for a while I was working pretty much full time, so I was always doing stuff, whereas now at most I work once a week. And then what else is going on in my life? Not much, really. Just me trying to keep busy, trying to do all these weird little projects, trying not to be too distracted, but I suck at that a little bit. I don't know. I do need to find more things to do with my life, but it's difficult, especially when you've got, you know, mental health problems that could flare up if you make the wrong life decisions. So, you know, I've got to be careful about what jobs I choose. It's going to work out. Yeah, I mean, like, you know, life's going okay. I have settled into an equilibrium. After that last depression, you know, I think my parents sort of really did realize that I had a serious problem. So, you know, I'm very lucky that I can basically do nothing with my life and still survive. But, you know, it does suck not having a proper income. You know, like Hope's vet bill was like an entire shift's worth of money. So, you know, and then next week he's going to need his next month he's going to need his vaccinations. I hope he doesn't need his x-ray. And look, he's up on the bloody couch again, being a cat. There he is. You know, there's this sort of like, there's the backing of the couch, and then there's this little pillow, and he's sort of in the crack between them. It's a very old-fashioned couch. I think that couch is older than I am. Constantly trying to get my mind busy so I don't start over-analyzing and sinking into depression. Yeah, that's difficult, hey. Because it's very easy to think your way into a hole. but it depends what kind of depression you have as well. And like the life is kind of meaningless. I do have a friend though. He's had a lot of struggles with that sort of existential stuff, but he recently had that realization, where nothing really has meaning, but the reason things do have meaning is because humans give it meaning. So basically, he can create his own meaning for the world, that kind of thing. Like he can create his own purpose, and that's helped him. I'm surprised I hadn't talked to him about that before, but I think sometimes it's better if a person comes to that sort of their own sort of realization, because you can try and tell people stuff all you want. They just might, if it's at the wrong time, they might not be receptive to it. But he has come to that conclusion on his own, and it helps him. Whereas for me, I don't remember when I sort of thought like, life's meaningless, but I can make up meaning. For me, it doesn't work because I know I made up the meaning. I'm not very creative. Well, it depends. I mean, what is creativity, You just gotta do stuff, because there's a lot of people who don't even try to do anything creative. And then, I mean, some people's idea of creativity, the photorealistic painters, they will paint something exactly how it looks. So on the one hand, they're creating something, they have an amazing level of skill, but how creative is it if they've basically just copied something they see in real life exactly as it is? And yet we still call that creativity. Whereas you could also do some other kind of art where it may not look anything like what you were trying to make it look like, but you have done some creative choices, like maybe you've done an interesting color choice that doesn't make sense, or maybe you've combined a couple of images that don't quite make sense. I'm just watching Hope and making sure he doesn't do anything stupid. Okay, he just jumped down to the next level, and I'm just like, and then he's stretching awkwardly, but no, he's fine. Just, yeah. Anyway, no, you could make some kind of composition that, like it doesn't look realistic, but you've made some odd choices, and then maybe it has some other meaning that you've put into it. Instead of just being an exact copy of something, you have some symbolism, and then, it looks weird and different, and that's a different kind of creativity. Like, what is creativity? There's so many things you could do with ideas or whatever. The main thing is just do it. Do you know what I mean? Like, even if it's crap. One thing I've sort of toyed with is with these live streams is like, maybe one day we should just get a piece of paper and we can make something live, and I can be like, hey, here, let's make a thing. Let's just be creative. I've sort of toyed with the idea, like, with my poetry, right? When I write my poetry, it's like off the top of my head. Once I write it on paper, I'm not really allowed to cross anything off unless it's like a catastrophic typo or whatever. I handwrite those. So it's basically like poetry. I will think about stuff. Occasionally I make it rhyme just by thinking in my head, okay, what rhymes with that? And it's not necessarily the most congruous thing to come next, but whatever. That my way of writing poetry is more like stream of consciousness kind of stuff. So I mean, because the only way I could do that is if I'm like, okay, it came off the top of my head, don't judge it, don't be judgmental. That's the only way I can get stuff down. And every now and then it's good. A lot of the time it's crap, but every now and then I come up with a poem that way, and I'm just like, this is really cool. And it's because I didn't overthink it. And I'm like, maybe we could do one of those poems, kind of, I can show you how we do it live on camera, and it might suck, but you get an idea of the process and how that's kind of done. Or we can just get a piece of paper out, I'll get some pencils and we'll draw something, and it'll probably be shit, but it'll be that sort of off the top of my head doodling kind of thing. We'll make something together. I'll show you, like, just do anything, and people will be like, gee, you're a creative person. Whereas if you don't try to do stuff, if you just get on with your life without trying to be creative, that's a pretty surefire way to not be creative. It's like the lottery, you've got to be in it to win it kind of thing, which would be nice to win it, but I can't really afford to go throwing money at lotteries. So Dave, my brother, he buys the lottery tickets, and he's a nice guy, so if he ever wins, I win. Although I think all he's ever won is like $2 to go and buy another lottery ticket. So hey, what can you do? But one day maybe. Anyway, never mind money. Both of you too, don't worry. Take it in, but let go of part of it. Life is sucky, but at the same time, when you look around at nature, it's beautiful. That recharges you. That's awesome. The nature is beautiful thing is a thing my dad's always going on about. Like, we'll go for a WALK. There's some nice places in Sydney where you can see like a lot of ocean and, you know, a lot of bushland and whatever. And Dad's always like, look how beautiful all this is. Doesn't that make you feel happy about the world? And my answer is always no. I don't feel anything when I look at that stuff. I'm like, yeah, I guess like it's nice, but I just don't care. I'm desensitized to all that stuff. And not in the same way that I'm desensitized to moon landings. It's a different kind of like, I just don't care somehow. I don't understand what my dad's feeling. Like, I can kind of conceptualize it, but I don't feel the same thing when I look out and see the beach or whatever. I'm just like, it's just the beach. I don't know why I don't have that experience. It's probably tied into something related to my tendency towards depression, but I've never felt that kind of how beautiful is this kind of thing. It's just something I don't experience, unfortunately. So to me, the world is just kind of this garbage thing I'm stuck in, you know? I'm not happy with the world. There's some fantasy stuffs that were fine, but ain't you funny? I just don't understand that kind of stuff. I can't get into it. So, you know, maybe it's also tied into me calling myself asexual, right? Because to me, there are two types of people. There are average looking people and ugly people. And I don't know what attractive people are. I just know that you're either ugly or you're not. Which is not really a great perspective to have on the world, but that's just how it is for me. Yeah, so I'm kind of a grumpy person. Yeah, no, that kind of thing is frustrating. And I've also sort of been disappointed with the work, because, you know, I used to read a lot of science fiction fantasy. I was into Pokemon, all that kind of stuff, and none of it is real, none of it will ever be real, so it's like the world is kind of boring as well. Like, the only exciting stuff that happens in the world, it's probably why I used to be into watching natural disasters. I mean, ignore destroyer stuff. You know, natural disasters and other shit that goes wrong. This is probably a thing I've had in my head ever since the whole September 11 thing. Like, everyone says they hate seeing bad things happen, but on another hand, like, there's a reason we watch the news, and there's a reason the news is always full of disaster. Every now and then you'll get a happy story on the news, but it's mostly full of things going wrong, and that ties into some kind of like adrenaline circuit we have. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is my favorite. Oh, I can't deal with Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I think I had them. I don't think I've tried to read the book, but I've seen clips from the movie, and I'm just like, this looks like the dumbest shit. I can't get into it. There's some stuff that I can't. A NASCAR race. Yeah, I don't know. I just, where was I going? I don't know. My brain's just suddenly gone blank again. I think it's because I'm tired, so it keeps trying to like reset itself and figure out where the hell it's going. What was I just talking about? People wanna, What? People wanna see them crash. Oh yes, yeah, that's like, you know, we don't want to admit it, but a lot of us are kind of sick in the head. Even with good looks, it's breaks up. There is beautiful, pretty cute, average, plain, dumpy, fugly. Okay. Now, to me, it's either average or ugly. There's not really much need for categorization beyond that. Which, like, I know average, it probably isn't the right word, because average is meant to be like a middle ground. Although I suppose most people fit into average, and there's only like a smaller amount who fall into ugly, so who knows? That's my maths brain going, actually, average is the, I'm like, no, okay, maths version of me, no one needs you right now. Oh, shit, sometimes my brain is a bit, that's who I find an ugly, what? Oh dear. But yeah, no, what? natural disasters, buildings imploding and so on. There's a fun rocket complication. There's a fun rocket compilation somewhere on YouTube where they've got all these rockets exploding and it's set to the final countdown, which is the only reason I like that song, because I saw it on this video, you know. Boom. Although I've been less into that stuff since the last depression. I just like, you know, that stuff doesn't excite me as much anymore either. You know, I used to watch a lot of documentaries and things about shit going wrong, crashes and whatever, and now I don't know. I think with like air crash investigation, I probably originally started watching it for the crashes, but now it's more for the intellectual side, how planes work. The nerdy side of me is taken over again. Yeah, bloody TCAS. And then there's like accidental nerdy stuff my brain does, because Mikey watches so many train videos. I now know by sight what a lot of different trains are, like what model they are. I'm just like, I don't need to know this stuff. Or is cute if you are like only envisioning Brad Pitt, then everyone is a booger. So for me, cute is something applied to animals and not really humans. I don't know if I really find humans cute. Like, I get there's a sort of anime girl cutesy kind of thing, but I don't really have that same reaction of how cute is that. I might describe someone as adorable, but it's usually like as a sort of sarcastic, funny kind of thing. Like, how adorable is that? For me, if something's going to be cute, it's probably going to be an animal. Yeah, I don't know. I don't find babies cute. I don't like babies. They're kind of ugly. Especially like humans are born like these sort of ugly red things. The best kind of baby, I think, is a guinea pig baby, because they're born with fur, they can move almost straight away, and they're tiny and cute and retarded with their giant feet. Their feet, when they're born, their feet are way too big for their bodies. A long time ago, one of my guinea pigs, like a boy guinea pig, and she happened to be pregnant. Yeah, so that was a funny experience. So those babies are cute. I'm not so keen on babies that are born without fur, though, because that's when they're ugly and red like a human baby. Yeah, I've not really spent a lot of time analyzing appearances and categorizing them. So for me, it's simpler to just have two categories, ugly and not ugly. You know, for me, beyond that, I don't really have any reason. You know, ideally, it would be better not to have categories, just have the category of people. But it's undeniable that I have that reaction of, oh my god, that's so ugly, from time to time. Other than that, I don't know. People are just people, and I kind of don't give a shit. I mean, you know, I've got to spend enough time trying to recognize people. If I was like, I can't date nobody but some TV project, that would screw up my options. I don't understand what you're talking about, to be honest. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't have any like experience. There's this one thing though, no, with attractive people though. Supposedly, I think attractive people are perceived subconsciously as being more trustworthy. I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but when I was studying psychology a long time ago, we did something on that, and there's this CD, I think I've talked about this before, there's this CD-ROM, and it has this sort of test in it where you're supposed to rate how trustworthy people look, and the idea is at the end, your results are supposed to show you that you trust the attractive people more, but my results are kind of the opposite, because like, you know, I guess maybe with culture and like, you know, movie stars and whatever. I mean, do you trust movie stars? I don't. So when I see those like super traditionally attractive people, I'm sort of like, what's going on here? I don't always trust that. And so, yeah, my results did not show what the exercise was trying to show. It was kind of funny. I was just like, yeah, I don't know if I would really trust this person. So yeah, I think my brain just is a bit odd Or else maybe it's the way I was brought up, who knows. I don't know how much, like some of the psychology stuff is very America sort of centric, and America has its own particular ideas that don't necessarily apply to every culture, so I don't know if it's a bit of that. Also, like the sort of Catholic upbringing. Wow, it's gotten really dark again. I think maybe this is a bad time of day to be doing stuff on this camera, because suddenly there's still light. I think it's just the angle is shifted out of this room. Can I reach the... Oh, I can't reach the fucking... I don't even trust my parents, but that's because of how I was brought up. Yeah. Yeah, I won't say on camera. But yeah, no, there are things that can happen to you that make you not trust certain kinds of things. I don't think I've ever had, you say you only see a try, I didn't say that I only see attractive and ugly. I see average and ugly. I see ugly and not ugly. Not ugly could be anything on the scale, you know. I don't, you know, it's not about seeing attractive people. And yeah, I don't trust those TV people. I think I have an idea of like what is supposed to be attractive, but I don't. I don't know. I guess because there's so much fake shit going around, and you're like, you know, how much makeup and how much airbrushing and all this kind of stuff. I don't know if I trust those pictures. And then some people in real life, you know, they'll be acting a certain way, and you're like, is this the real you? I don't know. Although we all act a little bit differently when we're in different situations. So is it really fake? Who knows? But there are some people who are trying too hard to act a certain way. Yeah. CGI, oh my god, there's some bad CGI out there, even these days, hey. Sometimes I feel like they get a little bit lazy. But yeah, no, so did my Catholic upbringing and, you know, Catholic schooling sort of change my perspective? Who knows? Or maybe this is just me. Maybe I'm just hard to impress, hard to excite, and that's why I get depressed. I'm sure I was excited when I was a kid about things like new Pokemon game. I used to not sleep very well when I knew I was getting a new Pokemon game. They come off as disingenuous. Yeah, it's tricky. And like, you know, you've got to also remember, like, instinctively we may have some kind of tendency to trust certain people over others, but instincts aren't always right, and you know, sometimes the people that you're suspicious about will actually turn out to be quite nice, and then sometimes because of an experience you had when you were younger or something, you might not trust someone. Southern Baptist, oh no. American religions are a little bit scary, I have to say. So I can imagine, like, you know, in Australia, what, even Catholic, my extended family, quite strong Catholic, but I never felt like it was the sort of pressure that people seem to be under in America from religious families. Never anything like that. There was a little bit of pressure for me to keep going to church. When I stopped going to church, people were not happy with that, but they sort of just got over it. So like there were some periods of time where I felt a little bit pressured. Also when my grandma was worried I was into witchcraft or something because I wanted a kid's book about wizards or something. Just like, it's just a kid's book. Doesn't mean anything, you know? If I was actually into witchcraft, oh my god, I would not go to a kid's wizard book. Jeez. Yeah, and then, you know, being an atheist, she wasn't happy with that, and I think she blamed herself for a while too, because, yeah, it's a long story. But no, I didn't feel pressure in the way that America seems to get. All my old friends are still really religious, yeah. I don't think I should tell that story. I just, like, I know people and I'm sort of like, oh, I probably shouldn't tell their stories. Because I haven't had anything too dramatic happen to me. Hope, can you not keep jumping around? Oh my god. Yeah, no, I haven't had anything particularly dramatic happen to me. The most dramatic thing, I guess, is just having a disabled brother and growing up with that. The impact of that didn't really hit until I was a lot older and got out of school and sort of saw more of the world and was like, oh, okay, there are things that we can't do. My grandmother is Catholic. She made me take a test for her. I'm the only grandchild who did it. She made you take a test? What kind of test? Oh, Dear, oh dear. No, I've heard of some pretty rough stuff going on in America where like families will disown you if you don't believe the right thing, or oh my god, Hopi, what are you up to? I'm just, cause he's been injured, I'm just like, you shouldn't be running around so much. Oh, I don't even know where he's gone. Hopefully he's not getting up to any shenanigans. Yeah, I don't know. And yeah, no, I think in Australia it's not too common to disown people if you're from those mainstream religions. A B plus. What kind of test are you talking about? You know, I don't know what to mean. They won't acknowledge that I'm atheist. Yeah. Yeah, no, I've heard some stuff about that. Like, you know, okay, they were unhappy with me and huh? Oh my god, Hope, don't woof at stuff. That's how you got into this problem in the first place. Hope! Excuse me, let's go and see what he's doing. Just take the thing off the tripod. I'm sorry if the connection gets shit because I'm moving away from the router. Hopi. Hopi, don't woof at it. Come inside, please. Hopi. You've got to chill out because otherwise you'll injure yourself, okay? You're supposed to be recovering, yeah? I think you can hear a puppy somewhere in the neighborhood and he's trying to chase. So, yeah, I'm just mildly concerned. Sorry to break up, whatever. Oh yeah, just do a pee for everyone. Alright, come on, Hopi. Come on. Uh-oh. Was that Mikey yelling? I don't know what time Mikey's getting home, so... what's today? Is today Thursday? Who does he have on Thursday? Hey, Molly. I'm not sure. Hey, Molly. Oh, dear. Yeah, okay. I don't know. I think we're okay. Right, I'm not sure, because I can hear someone out in the street, and I'm like, is that Mikey? I don't know. Oh my god, it's so dark in this room. The whole point of coming in this room is to be able to see things, but now I can barely even see my screen, because it's done that. Hang on, let me just pop the brightness up. How do I do that? Oh no, he is home. I can hear him going, uh-oh. I'm gonna have to go. I'm sorry, this is earlier than I thought I would. So, yeah, sorry guys. I'll try and get something else going, videos next week, but, yeah, my brain's had a lot to think about. I've got to stop Hobie from jumping, so see you guys.